Court is back in session on the court's announcement docket. We have two cases. First case is cause number 327984. Case is style of state of Texas versus Jedrick Henry Ward. Second case is cause number 328146. That case is also style of state of Texas versus Jedrick Henry Ward. Mr. Ward, is that your full name?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Ward, would you please raise your right hand? Mr. Ward, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Ward, you may put your hand down. How are you doing, Mr. Ward?
All right, you, sir.
I'm doing fine. Thanks for asking. Mr. Ward, you're here represented by your attorney, Ms. Marva Provo. Ms. Provo, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine.
That's good. Mr. Ward, in cause number 327984, I have before me an information that alleges that on or about September 27 of 2020, while you were in Jefferson County, Texas, that you committed the Class B misdemeanor offense of driving while intoxicated. Mr. Ward, do you understand what you've been charged with?
Yes, sir.
And to this charge, Mr. Ward, how do you plead? Guilty, not guilty, or no contest?
Guilty.
Now, are you pleading guilty freely and voluntarily? And are you pleading guilty because you are guilty?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Ward, I also have before me a document that is titled a misdemeanor plea admonishment. Mr. Ward, do you recognize this document?
Yes, sir.
And on page 2 of this same document, there are a set of initials on a line next to a box that's checked no
No
contest.
contest.
Did you say you entered a plea of guilty?
No, I'm sorry about that. No contest.
Okay, now you entered a plea of no contest freely and voluntarily?
Yes, sir.
And are you entering a plea of no contest because you do not wish to fight or contest the charges?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now, Mr. Ward, I have before me a document that you acknowledge, which is the misdemeanor plea admonishment on page 2. There's a set of initials, DW, on a line that's checked no contingent, which means no contest. Did you place your initials on this document?
Yes, sir.
On page 3 of the same document, there's a signature above the line that is titled defendant. Is that your signature?
Yes, sir.
And on the next document, which is titled the trial court certification of defendant's right of appeal, do you recognize this document?
Yes, sir.
And is this your signature on the line that's titled defendant?
Yes, sir.
There are two boxes that are checked at the top of this document. The first box states that this is a plea bargain case and you have no right of appeal. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
The second box states that you're waiving your right to appeal, which means you're giving up your right to appeal. Do you understand that? I also have before me a document that is titled discovery certification. Do you recognize this document?
Yes, sir.
And is this your signature on the line that's titled defendant?
Yes, sir.
Now, Mr. Ward, prior to signing and initialing all of these documents that I've just mentioned to you, did your attorney go over these documents with you?
Yes, sir.
And did you read and understand everything in these documents?
Yes, sir.
And is everything in these documents true and correct to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, sir.
State, I have before me state's exhibit number 1, the misdemeanor plea admonishments. You like to also states 1 and states 2, the probable cause affidavit.
Yes, Your Honor.
Any objections? No objection. States exhibits number 1 and 2 are admitted. Ms. Provo, you've advised and counsel Mr. Ward, is there any evidence that he is currently mentally incompetent to stand trial? Mr. Ward, your attorney, Ms. Provo, has advised and counseled you. Are you satisfied with her representation?
Yes, sir.
Has she provided full, effective, and competent legal representation?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Ward, I will accept your plea of no contest. I will find that you are mentally competent to stand trial. I will also find that your plea of no contest and waivers were freely and voluntarily given. And I will also find that there is sufficient evidence to find you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. State, do we have a plea bargain agreement?
We do, Your Honor.
And what is that agreement?
Your Honor, the agreement is for case number 327984 is for 90 days in jail, probated over a term of 1 year, a $1,000 fine, 60 hours of community service, DWI classes and drug and alcohol assessments, as well as anger management and classes. And this sentence is to run concurrently with the plea that will be entered in 328146.
Mr. Ward, the state in cause number 327984 is offering that you serve 90 days in the Jefferson County Jail. However, you will not have to serve any time in the Jefferson County Jail because you'll be placed on probation for 1 year. During that 1 year probationary period, you'll be required to pay a fine of $1,000 plus court costs of $472, which comes to a total of fine and court costs of $1,472. You'll be required to pay $60 probation fee each month, $15 urinalysis fee each month. You'll be required to pay the Jefferson County DWI education class an initial evaluation fee of $125. Should a further evaluation you'll be required to pay that on the day of the plea. Should a further evaluation be needed, you'll be required to pay an additional $50. You'll be required to pay the court-appointed attorney's fees of $250. Your total monthly installments that you will be required to pay each month is $235 per month. Mr. Ward, will you be able to pay the $235 each month?
Yes, sir.
You will also be required to perform 60 hours of community service, attend and complete a DWI education class, and have a drug and alcohol assessment. I know you mentioned Mr. Ham, that he's supposed to do anger management. I don't see that on the plea form or nor at least in this judgment, the DWI judgment.
It should be reflected in the judgment that will be entered in case number 328146, Your Honor.
Okay, so,
Which is the assault family violence case.
okay, so he's not getting anger management in this case.
No, sir.
Okay. Now, Mr. Ward, you will be required to adhere to the standard terms and conditions of this probation. And this case will run concurrent with cause number 328146. Mr. Ward, do you understand the state's offer?
Yes, sir.
And do you think that the state's offer in your case is fair and just?
Yes, sir.
And do you accept the state's offer?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Ward, I will follow the plea bargain agreement that you have entered into with the state. Mr. Ward, we will move on to your next case. And your next case is cause number 328146. And the information in this case, Mr. Ward, alleges that on or about October 17 of 2020, while you were in Jefferson County, Texas, that you committed the class A misdemeanor offense of assault family violence. Mr. Ward, do you understand what you have been charged with?
Yes, sir.
And to this charge, Mr. Ward, how do you plead? Guilty, not guilty, or no contest?
No contest.
Mr. Ward, are you pleading no contest freely and voluntarily?
Yes, sir.
And are you pleading no contest because you do not wish to fight or contest the charges?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Ward, I also have before me in this case a document that is titled Misdemeanor Plea Admonishments. Mr. Ward, do you recognize this document?
Yes, sir.
On page 2 of the same document, Mr. Ward, there's a set of initials on the line that's titled Nolica Tendre, the initials of DW. Did you place your initials on this document? And on the next page of the same document, there's a signature above the line that's titled Defendant. Is that your signature?
Yes, sir.
And on the next document, which is titled, nothing was marked on this one. None of the boxes was checked. Now, Mr. Ward, on this next document, which is titled Child Code Certification of Defendant's Right of Appeal, do you recognize this document? Is that your signature above the line that's titled Defendant?
Yes, sir.
There are two boxes that are checked at the top of this document. The first box that's checked states that this is a plea bargain case and you have no right of appeal. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
The second box that's checked states that you are waiving your right to an appeal, which means you are giving up your right to an appeal. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Ward, I also have before me a document that is titled Discovery Certification. You recognize this document?
Yes, sir.
Is that your signature above the line that's titled Defendant?
Yes, sir.
And Mr. Ward, prior to signing and initialing all of these documents that I have just mentioned to you, did your attorney go over these documents with you?
Yes, sir.
And did you read and understand everything in these documents?
Yes, sir.
And is everything in these documents true and correct to the best of your knowledge?
Yes, sir.
State, I have before me State's Exhibit Number 1, the misdemeanor plea admonishment is State's Exhibit Number 2, the probable cause affidavit. State, you like to offer States 1 and 2?
Yes, Your Honor.
Any objections? No objections. State's Exhibits 1 and 2 are admitted. Ms. Provo, you've advised and counsel Mr. Ward in this case as well. Is there any evidence that he's currently mentally incompetent to stand trial? Mr. Ward, your attorney, Ms. Provo, has advised and counseled you. Are you satisfied with her representation?
Yes, sir.
Has she provided full, effective, and competent legal representation?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Ward, I will accept your plea of no contest. I will find that you are mentally competent to stand trial. I will also find that your plea and waivers were freely and voluntarily given. And I will also find that there is sufficient evidence to find you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. State, do we have a plea bargain agreement?
We do, Your Honor.
And what is that agreement?
Your Honor, the agreement in this case, number 328146, is for 90 days in jail, probated over a term of 1 year, $1,000 fine, 60 hours of community service, and anger management classes. And this sentence is to run concurrently with that in case number 327984.
Mr. Ward, the state is offering that you serve 90 days in the Jefferson County Jail, but you would not have to serve any time in the Jefferson County Jail on this case because you'll be placed on probation for 1 year. During the 1 year probationary period, you'll be required to pay a fine of $1,000 plus court costs of $352, which comes to a total of fine and court costs of $1,352. You'll also be required to pay a year analysis fee of $15 each month. And you also be required to pay a court-appointed attorney's fees of $50. Your total monthly installments for this case, that is the total amount that you would have to pay on this case each month, is $145. Mr. Ward, will you be able to pay the $145?
Yes, sir.
And you'll also be required to perform 60 hours of community service. You will be required to pay a fine, of $100 to a family violence center in Jefferson County. This case will run concurrent with cause number 327984. You would have to attend and complete an anger management class as a condition of your probation. And you will also be required to adhere to the other standard terms and conditions of your probation. Mr. Ward, do you understand the state's offer?
Yes, sir.
And do you think that the state's offer in your case is fair and just?
Yes, sir.
And do you accept the state's offer?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Ward, I'll follow the plea bargain agreement that you have entered into with the state. Mr. Ward, I'm handing your attorney an admonishment that I must go over with you. That document is titled Model Written Admonishment on Ineligibility to Possess a Firearm or Ammunition. Do you see that title?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and it reads, in accordance with the Texas Administrative Code, Section 176.1, the court hereby admonish you of the following. Number one, you are, by entry of order or judgment, ineligible under Texas law to possess a firearm or ammunition. Beginning now, if you possess a firearm or ammunition, it could lead to charges against you. If you have questions about how long you will be ineligible to possess a firearm or ammunition, you should consult an attorney. Number three, under Texas Penal Code, Section 46.013, A, firearms mean any device designed, made, or adapted to expel a projectile through a barrel by using the energy generated by an explosion or burning substance, or any device readily convertible to that use. B, firearm does not include a firearm that may have as an integral part a folding knife blade or other characteristics of weapons made illegal by Penal Code Chapter 46, and that is one, an antique or carry-over firearm manufactured before 1899, or two, a replica of an antique or carry-over firearm manufactured before 1899, but only if the replica does not use rimfire or centerfire ammunition. The statutes listed below are a starting point for ineligibility to possess a firearm or ammunition. For more information about the laws that make you ineligible to possess a firearm or ammunition, or for more information on how long your ineligibility to possess a firearm or ammunition lasts, the court recommends you contact an attorney. Code of Criminal Procedure, Article 17.292, Magistrate's Order for Emergency Protection. Code of Criminal Procedure, Article 42.0131, Notice for persons convicted of misdemeanors involving family violence. Penal Code, Section 46.02, Unlawful carrying weapons. Penal Code, Section 46.04, Unlawful possession of firearm. Penal Code, Section 25.07, violation of certain court orders or conditions of bond in a family violence, child abuse or neglect, sexual assault or abuse, indecent assault, stalking, or trafficking case. Family Code, Section 85.026, warning on protective order. Now, Mr. Ward, you can keep that copy. That copy is for your records. Mr. Ward, you're going to stand on the X next to your attorney to follow the directions of our court clerk. Once you finish following her directions, you'll be free to go, and you have a blessed day.
You too.
You are. Okay, this is cause number 324282. The case is styled the state of Texas versus Donald Wayne Smith Jr.
Yes, sir.
Is Mr. Smith here?
Your Honor, the state has submitted a dismissal. It looked like Mr. Smith passed away in August.
Oh.
And I looked, all the felonies were dismissed. I didn't see why, but then we looked up the obituary and found that with the date of birth. So,
Okay. Okay, so you already submitted the dismissal?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, I'll be signing the dismissal.
Thank you, Sheriff.
And once I sign the dismissal, Mr. Macy, you'll be able to get a copy and you'll be free to go.
Thank you, Judge.